Understood. Here is the rewritten script, preserving the structure, tone, and meaning while changing the wording. There's a single moment resting less than 1 second ahead of you that may not have come into being yet. Not concealed, not distant, not sealed inside some vault only God possesses a combination to, but truly not recorded anywhere at all in any shape for anyone to read. And if that moment hasn't been recorded yet, then even the fullest mind you could dream up, one aware of every particle, every force, every location, and every velocity across the whole cosmos simultaneously, still couldn't tell you what it holds. For precisely the same reason you can't read a sentence that no one has yet typed. By the finish, you'll grasp why the future might be the single place even a flawless knower cannot arrive at, and why the barrier planet in front of it isn't fashioned from mystery at all. It's fashioned from physics. And the oddest part is that this barrier doesn't grow any thinner as your intelligence rises. It might be the lone wall in all of existence that remains exactly as firm for a God as it does for you. Begin with something you already accept without ever having examined it, that the future is an actual location already out there, merely waiting for the rest of us to step into it. We speak of it in exactly this fashion constantly, without registering what we're taking for granted. We say the future holds things as if it were a room with the furniture already positioned and the lights already burning. A forecaster calls tomorrow's storm as though tomorrow's weather were already parked there, complete, just beyond sight. A chess engine peers 20 moves onward. An astronomer prints a day and hour of an eclipse that won't unfold for 400 years. Wherever you turn, the future acts like a volume already composed front to back, one we're permitted to read only a single page at a stretch, restrained by some silent law from skipping forward. And it feels plainly true, because the tiny fragments that we do succeed in predicting turn out right with almost insulting dependability. Eclipses to the second, centuries beforehand. A spacecraft sent off today, reaching a moving planet hundreds of millions of miles away, right on time years later. Tides, seasons, the comeback of a comet, exactly when the arithmetic insists it should show. If we can already read that many pages forward, that exactly, then surely the entire volume exists already. And surely a mind enormously greater than ours could just open it and take the whole thing at once beginning to end, without ever flipping a page. It is the most natural conviction imaginable. And for nearly the entirety of human history, it was also, as far as anyone could possibly judge, simply and plainly right. Here's the question tucked beneath all that assured prediction, the one almost nobody pauses to raise. When a physicist works out the precise instant of an eclipse, is she reading a page that already exists somewhere, or is she calculating a page that hasn't been composed yet? Those two possibilities sound the same from the outside. Same answer, same accuracy, same eclipse arriving on schedule, but underneath they portray two utterly different universes. In the first universe, the future is already completely mapped out, finished in every particular, and prediction amounts to nothing more than early reading. The answer was always sitting there. We simply reached it ahead of schedule. In the second universe, the future does not exist yet in any complete shape, and prediction is a calculation running forward from the present, where the answer turns real only at the instant it truly occurs and not a moment earlier. Picture two libraries to sense the distance between them. In the first, every book that will ever be authored already rests finished on the shelves, and the prophet is nothing beyond a reader who was granted an early ticket. In the second, the books are still being composed in real time, and the prophet is genuinely the author, settling the next line as the pen travels, capable of naming the ending only when the plot has grown rigid enough to compel it. The eclipse conceals the difference between these two universes because the physics of orbiting rock is so pure, so entirely stripped of randomness, that reading the page and calculating the page deliver you the identical result every single time. But the instant you close in far enough, down to a single particle, a single radioactive atom, a single photon striking a half-silvered mirror, those two universes rip apart from one another violently, and physics lands hard on the side almost no one anticipates. Because at that scale, the universe seems to reach some of its verdicts in real time, and a verdict reached in real time is one that nobody, however immense, can read in advance for the plain reason that there is nothing there yet to be read. For roughly 200 years, physics carried a tidy and confident reply to whether the future already exists. And that reply was a flat yes. The sharpest form of it is a thought experiment now called Laplace's demon. Imagine an intellect that grasped at one instant the exact location and the exact motion of every particle in the universe together, with every force operating among them. For such an intellect, the physicists reason nothing would be uncertain in the future, just like the past would lie exposed before its eyes, already present, awaiting only calculation. This was a mechanical dream, the universe as an immense, flawless clockwork, the future already wholly implied by the present, requiring only a big enough calculator to unroll it step by step. Under this portrait, God knowing the future isn't even puzzling. It's trivial. The future is merely the present run forward through fixed and faultless equations, and an infinite mind runs that calculation instantly, spotting the end from the start without effort. For 2 centuries, this appeared not just true, but obviously true. The equations of motion never faltered. Planets, cannonballs, moons, and comets all obeyed to the decimal for as long as anyone bothered to verify. When a faint wobble in one planet's course suggested that another hidden world was pulling on it, the equations aimed at the exact patch of sky where that missing planet had to be lurking, and telescopes turned to precisely that spot and found it, right where the math had commanded it to show. The future didn't merely appear readable. It seemed to offer up its answers before anyone had even thought to pose a question. The future wasn't a separate place you had to glimpse. It was a theorem you could establish from the present. Given nothing but the numbers and enough time to labor, and then across the first 3 decades of the 20th century, physics went probing at the tiniest scale of reality, and the clockwork fell to pieces in its grip. Here's the turn, and it's the finding that shattered Laplace's demon at the root. To calculate the future, the demon requires one thing above everything else, the exact present. Every location and every momentum nailed down perfectly right now to act as the starting line for calculation. Quantum mechanics declares that starting line does not exist. Not that we're too clumsy to gauge it, that it is not there to be gauged. This is a genuine substance of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and it is nearly always phrased too mildly. The principle does not claim that observing a particle jostles it like a clumsy hand swatting a ball off a table. It claims that the location and the momentum of a particle cannot both hold sharp definite values at the same instant, even in principle, even with no one watching. The more exactly one is fixed, the more truly undefined the other grows. Not unknown, undefined. So the perfect set of initial conditions a demon needs isn't tucked behind a curtain that finer instruments could one day draw back. There is no complete set of numbers behind the curtain at all. The clockwork universe demands a starting arrangement that reality flatly declines to hold. And it grows odder because quantum mechanics doesn't merely rob the demon of its inputs. It denies the universe a definite output. Take a single radioactive atom perched on a table. Will it decay in the next 60 seconds? The theory does not pass you a hidden yes or no that you're simply too ignorant to notice. It passes you a probability. And, crucially, under the standard reading of a theory, that probability is the whole tale, the complete and final truth about that atom. The specific moment it decays is not recorded anywhere in the present state of the universe. It is not stored in the atom, not in its surroundings, not in some deeper stratum of reality we merely haven't touched yet. It becomes a fact at the instant it happens, and not one moment before. Now weigh that against the question this whole video opened with. If the exact moment that atom decays is not recorded anywhere yet, not concealed, but truly not yet real, then there's no fact there for anyone to know beforehand, however vast their mind, because knowledge is knowledge of facts, and this particular fact does not exist to be known until the universe forges it. I have to be straight with you here, because it shapes everything that follows. This is the standard reading of quantum mechanics, not the sole one. And the alternatives are exactly where the struggle over God and the future turns genuinely fascinating. So step inside the strongest objection to everything I've just laid out, because it's the one a thoughtful believer forms almost at once, and it deserves its full force rather than a hasty brush-off. God, the objection runs, is not a predictor trapped inside time, sweating over a calculation like Laplace's demon, working forward from a present he can't fully lock down. God stands outside time altogether. He doesn't foresee the future the way a forecaster does. He beholds all of it at once, past, present, and future lay before him like a landscape surveyed from a great height. The way that from a lofty enough mountain you can absorb the start, the middle, and the end of a long parade in one look, even though the marchers below live it only one moment at a time. This is among the oldest and most graceful moves in theology, and earnest thinkers have embraced it for well beyond 1,000 years. On this account, labeling any moment future says something about where you happen to be positioned inside time, not something about God, much as a traveler calls a city up ahead only because of where the road has carried him, while a mapmaker gazing down at the whole route sees every city on it at once. And notice what it accomplishes. It bypasses the entire trouble of computing an undetermined future, because God isn't computing anything whatsoever. He's merely gazing. To a timeless observer, the moment that atom decays is just there, already part of the landscape, already beheld. But study very carefully what that lovely picture quietly demands, because it slips in a specific claim about physics, one that may not endure contact with a single decaying atom. For God to behold the future as an already existing landscape, the future has to already exist as a landscape. Every event, including that atom's decay, has to be a definite fact resting out there in the timeless view, finished, waiting to be beheld. And that is exactly the thing the standard reading of quantum mechanics says is not so. If the decay is truly undetermined until it happens, not concealed but unrecorded, then it is not part of any landscape, timeless or otherwise, because there is no fact there to be part of one. A being who stands outside of time can behold everything that exists across all times at once, and still not behold this for the plainest possible reason. There is nothing there yet to behold. Stepping outside of time doesn't grant you the power to read a page that hasn't been composed. It merely lets you stand outside the book while it's still being typed. So, which is it? Is the future a finished landscape God absorbs in one glance, or a page reality is still typing one keystroke at a time? Tell me in the comments which universe you believe you're living in and how you know. Now, let me spread the actual machinery out flat, because the paradox doesn't hang on one clever trick. It hangs on two distinct walls that arrive from two different directions, and then on the fact that every escape route around them collides with a wall of its own. Wall one is the missing present. As we saw, there is no complete sharp set of starting numbers of the universe, because location and momentum cannot both be definite at once. Wall 2 is the undetermined output. Even granted everything that can be known about the present, the specific outcome of a quantum event isn't settled by it. The theory delivers probabilities, and under the standard reading those probabilities are the whole reality, not a mass draped over some hidden certainty. Two independent walls, one blocking the inputs, one blocking the outputs. Here's where an honest physicist has to ease up, because there are ways out. They just charge you something every time. One escapes as the randomness is only apparent, and beneath quantum mechanics lie definite values we simply can't reach, quietly guiding every particle along a fixed track. This is a real, respectable interpretation. But experiments testing Bell's theorem have demonstrated again and again that you cannot possess those hidden values and preserve the universe as local and independent at the same time. To rescue determinism this way, you have to concede that distant parts of reality are wired together instantly, or that the experimenter was never genuinely free to choose what to measure. These aren't armchair worries you can shrug off. The experiments settling this were meticulous enough and repeated often enough to earn a Nobel Prize, and they keep delivering the same stubborn verdict. Either price is steep, and even if you pay it, the hidden values stay hidden in principle, so the demon still can't collect its numbers. A second escape says every quantum outcome happens, each in its own branch of reality. An equation portraying all of them together evolves perfectly deterministically. Grant that fully. And notice it doesn't salvage foreknowledge either. In that picture, there is no single future for God to know, only a forest of every possible future occurring at once. And the one question you truly care about, which branch is the one you wake up inside tomorrow, has no determinate answer, because you travel down every fork. And just when you grasp for relativity to save the day, for the celebrated notion that all moments in time are equally real, watch that lifeline become one more version of the same trap. Relativity does appear to hold out a gift of believer, a block universe where past, present, and future all exist together as one unchanging four-dimensional whole, which is precisely the finished landscape a timeless God would require. But that gift carries two catches. First, The block universe sits in open tension with quantum indeterminacy. You can have a fully pre-painted landscape, or you can have genuine quantum chance. But fusing both together is one of the deepest unsolved puzzles in all of physics. And second, even within the block, relativity strips away any single universal now. Observers moving differently carve time into past and future along different angles and disagree about which distant events have even happened yet. So the future isn't one clean page waiting to be read. It splinters into as many different pages as there are viewpoints. There is no master timeline to hand anyone, divine or otherwise. So let's grant the demon the most generous possible case and see whether even that suffices. Suppose the future truly is fixed-pick, whichever interpretation pins it down hardest, and grant it entirely. Does that finally render the future knowable in advance? Zoom out from the single atom to the world you actually inhabit, and a second, entirely different obstacle rears up, one that would linger even in a perfectly deterministic universe. The first piece of it is chaos. Countless real systems, whether fluids, the long-term dance of the planets, the firing of neurons, are so sensitive to their starting conditions that the faintest difference in present, far too small to ever nail down, swells into a completely different outcome later. This is the butterfly effect, and it means that to predict such a system far ahead, you don't merely need good starting numbers. You need them to infinite precision. And infinite precision is exactly what Wall 1 already refused you. The second piece is deeper and stranger, and it springs from the physics of computation itself. For a great many systems, there is no shortcut, no neat formula that vaults straight to the answer 1,000 steps ahead. The only way to discover what the system does is to actually run it step by step, every single step with nothing skipped. So to know the future of the universe in full, you would have to compute the universe in full, every particle, every interaction at complete resolution, omitting nothing. And here's the blade at the bottom of it all, drawn straight from the physical limits of information. Any machine that faithfully tracks every particle of the universe must possess at least as many working parts as the universe it is tracking. The smallest possible perfect model of reality is reality itself. This is a metaphor, and it isn't a limit of our engineering that some future breakthrough sweeps aside. It tumbles straight out of the deepest known bounds on how much information a region of space can even carry. Hard ceilings imposed by gravity, quantum mechanics, and the finite speed of light try to pack more memory than those ceilings permit into a small enough volume. And you don't get a faster computer. You get a black hole. Reality allows exactly one machine detailed enough to hold the entire universe within it. And that machine is already running. We call it the universe, which means the only machine able to compute the universe's future is a second complete copy of the universe running at exactly the same speed. And a copy running at the same speed finishes computing tomorrow at the precise instant that tomorrow arrives, not 1 second sooner. That isn't foreknowledge. That's just the universe happening twice in step. Set those two obstacles beside each other, and something snaps into place. A single simple statement that may be the most honest thing physics has ever spoken about knowing what comes next. Here is what the whole argument has quietly been building toward, and it's sharper than the sentence, God doesn't know the future. Because it doesn't rest on winning the interpretation fight at all. Two completely independent findings arriving from two unrelated corners of physics aim at the very same wall. From quantum mechanics, the future may not be composed yet, and no one at any level of power can read a page that hasn't been composed. From information and computation, even if the future is composed, the only way to read it in advance is to construct a machine as large and as fast as the universe, which is simply the universe again, arriving no sooner than it always would. Lay those two side by side, and they fold into one startling possibility. Perfect foreknowledge and simply living through the moment may be the exact same act. To know in complete and flawless detail what happens next, you have to run the universe forward at full fidelity. And running the universe forward at full fidelity is indistinguishable from just letting it unfold. There is no faster path. There is no view from above that skips the wait. Sit with what that does to the word foresee. To foresee normally means to see a thing before it happens. But here the seeing and the happening have been welded into one single event, because the only instrument fast enough to see it turns out to be the happening itself. A God who wished to truly know your next heartbeat down to the last particle and the last electrical whisper across a nerve would have to run a copy of you so complete that it would simply be another you feeling that heartbeat for the very first time live, with no clue what came next until it arrived. The preview collapses into a second live performance. The rehearsal is the show. The future on this reading isn't a locked room that God has been unfairly barred from entering. It may be a room that only comes into existence at the moment someone walks in, and the walking in is the one and only key there's ever been for anyone of any power in any tradition. And here's the part that should truly unsettle you, whichever way you lean, because theology arrived at this exact fork long before physics did, and it has never uncovered a way around it either. One ancient camp says God is timeless and beholds all of history at once. And as we've now seen, that picture only holds that the future is a finished, fully determined landscape. But a fully determined future is hard determinism wearing a halo. And it quietly charges you the one thing most people who defend God's foreknowledge are least willing to surrender: genuine free will. If every choice you will ever make is already resting there finished in the landscape God is beholding, then in what sense was it ever open to you? The other camp bites the exact bullet the physics keeps aiming at. It says God knows everything that can be known. And a truly open future is simply not a knowable thing. No more a real object than a square circle is a real shape. This is not some fringe dodge concocted to sidestep the problem. It's a considered position with a genuine lineage and serious modern defenders. And it treats an open future not as a wound in God's knowledge, but as a natural feature of any world where real choices actually take place. On this view, God is not blind to tomorrow. There is just no tomorrow object yet there to be beheld. And branding that absence a limit on his knowledge is a category error. Sit with both options honestly and notice the floor neither one can flee. If the future is fixed enough for God to know it, your choices were never truly yours. If your choices are truly yours, then the future is not fixed enough for anyone, God included, to know it in advance. And notice that no amount of raw power breaks the tie. Omnipotence is usually defined, even by its most careful defenders, as a capacity to do anything logically possible. And neither knowing a fact that hasn't been composed yet, nor computing the universe faster than the universe itself runs, is a logically possible thing to do. So this isn't a shortfall that a little more might would patch over. It sits in the very same category as a stone too heavy for its maker to lift, not a task that God attempts and fails, but a string of words that only resembles a task from a distance. Physics did not invent this dilemma. It only drew back the curtain and revealed the dilemma was woven into the deep structure of time and matter all along, not into any gap in our knowledge that a clever century might close. So return one last time to that single instant resting less than a second ahead of you, the one this whole video began with. It feels like the most ordinary thing in the world. The next tick of the clock, the next breath already on its way to you, practically here. But everything we've just walked through hints that this ordinary little tick may be the single strangest object in all of physics, close enough to touch, all but certain to arrive, and possibly not yet real in any complete form at all. Perhaps it already exists, fixed and finished, part of a timeless landscape that a mind outside of time absorbs at a glance. If so, then it was composed before you were born, and so is every word you'll utter tomorrow. And the freedom you feel choosing them is the one illusion physics can neither retract from you nor confirm for you. You would be a character reading his own lines a heartbeat before he speaks them, mistaking the recitation for a decision. Or perhaps it doesn't exist yet at all. Perhaps reality is still typing it, one keystroke at a time, and even a perfect knower is standing exactly where you are, watching each character surface at the instant it lands, because there is truly nothing further ahead to read. In that world, you are not smaller than God for failing to see tomorrow. You are, for once, standing on perfectly level ground with him, both of you leaning toward the same blank space just past the cursor, waiting together to discover what it says. Notice that physics does not tell you which of those two worlds is yours. It tells you something stranger and more even-handed than that. On the strongest reading of our best theories, the future may not be concealed from God the way a locked drawer conceals a letter. It may simply not be there yet. And a wall built of not yet is the one wall that rises exactly as tall for an infinite mind as it does for a finite one. If the future isn't composed yet, that pries something else wide open, because a God who supposedly planned every second of your life needs that plan to already exist. The next video steps straight into that trap. If God already knows your future, did you ever truly have a choice? It's on your screen right now.